Hello, and welcome to another episode of No Notes, where the conversation is always a perfect 10 out of 10. This podcast is powered by Eleos Health, the most used and most loved AI platform in behavioral health, equipping more than 100 organizations and over 10,000 providers with powerful automation tools that streamline documentation, simplify compliance, and surface deep care insights that drive better client outcomes. I'm your host, Dr. Denny Morrison, and for today's episode, we are thrilled to be joined by Sam Jefroykin, the head of data sciences at Eleos and our resident AI extraordinaire, for a crash course in all things artificial intelligence presented through the lens of behavioral healthcare. We'll chat about the different types of AI, how the underlying models work, and the challenges that can be solved with this almost magical technology. So welcome, Sam, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Denny.
You bet. Hey, let's kind of get into the beginning of this and start at the basics. I mean, how do we differentiate artificial intelligence from other forms of things that people have seen before? For example, I know in our industry we have had like automated tools that will interpret a psychological test, for example, and those are usually just really sophisticated if-then statements of that are put together. How does this differ from those kind of things that our listeners may have been familiar with?
Let's come back to the definition of artificial intelligence, and then we'll be able to understand the difference. So artificial intelligence is to create machines that will be able to do a task that usually requires some human intelligence, such as text translation, decision-making, simple classification, or taking an action on a product, like you mentioned before, or taking a test, etc. Now, back on the days, we tried to make everything automatic. So if this happens, so then I'm doing that. If this happens, this. So we try to replicate a potential human intelligence, but we don't train a machine to understand the human intelligence. Now, the key component in artificial intelligence can be what we call machine learning. So we created algorithm that can replicate human task by learning from them and not telling the machine what to do, like the if statements, but showing example, explaining how to do stuff, and then the machine can reproduce it. So it's like, instead of having a robot that does exactly what humans want, you have like a partner that you can teach, and then it will help you to do your tasks.
Yeah, what's interesting to me about this, and I think when people who haven't had much familiarity with AI think about this, I think they're used to thinking in terms of if I had the same session with the same client and we talked about the same things, the output would be identical the second time, and it never is, right? In the case of artificial intelligence, and isn't that one of the things that makes it different?
So it makes it even more human. If you have the same session with the same client, where at two different times, you wouldn't write the same report. You wouldn't have potentially the same output, because you have maybe you were less focused on the last 2 minutes this time. Maybe you catch something different. Maybe between those two sessions, you learn something new about therapy or something new about your clients, and then you react differently. Same for the model.
Yeah, that's to me one of the exciting things about this. Whenever I talk about this kind of technology to clinicians, I always tell them it's a lot like having another clinician in the room to give you some kind of their feedback from their perspective, which you don't get from other machine learning technologies that I'm aware of. And so one of the things that we've heard a lot about in this industry is that there's a difference between artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence. And can you talk a little bit about that and what the difference is and why it's important?
So artificial intelligence, I say, it's to replicate a task by a human. So let's say while you are doing a session and you are creating your report for this session, if you have artificial intelligence, it would create the report for you without any intervention from you. Then with augmented intelligence, it's giving the right tools for you with this assistant, with this augmented AI system to create the best notes together. So you take the best from both, okay? You take the power of AI that can create amazing insights really fast with like kind of a level of language that you don't expect, and you take the human sense and knowledge, and then the AI is here to help make the decision of a human. So it's like augmenting the human. It's like when a mathematician got a calculator or got a computer, they were augmented by the machine because we gave an assistant something that can do a lot of tasks for them, calculation and stuff that were not really what the mathematician wanted to do. And then they could do more tasks. So you're just augmented, but it doesn't replace us.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that clinicians get a little bit worried about, and that is that this is going to replace me, when in fact, everything that Eleos does, and I think pretty much the whole industry does, is help clinicians do their jobs better. It gives them information so that they can make better decisions. It's not making decisions for them. It's helping them make better decisions, right?
Yeah. Imagine if you need to write documentation overnight, over the weekend. Probably when you come back at work on Monday, you will be a bit tired, maybe a bit pissed, maybe you will not give the best treatment, and maybe at the same time you say, okay, this time I take my notes during the session. And this is the whole concept of augmented intelligence today. We try to train AI solution models in order to help people to focus on the most important and crucial part of their work and what they like to do. So giving therapy in our case, but it can be maybe for someone that look at data, maybe to take the decision or the insights of the analysis and not creating dashboards or like charts. For a developer in our case, it's not writing code that was written thousands of times, but thinking how the logic behind should be. And then now the developer, the therapist, the data analyst are like in another level, because they level up, they are augmented, and now they can really think.
This technology helps clinicians do what only clinicians can do. That is,
exactly.
can focus on what is really important. And, you know, we've said this a lot of times, I know you have too, that people didn't get into this business because they like to write notes. Get into this business because they wanted to help people. So we're helping them help people more. And I think in addition to what you said, is they also, as that kind of using that metaphor of a second clinician in the room, it's like the AI can say, did you notice this? It'll call attention to something that the clinician may have missed. We've seen that with, you know, people who have used Eleos. They say, I didn't even notice that the client had said something. And that's excellent. I mean, that's really what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, as you mentioned, like, think about AI system can handle more therapy sessions than any therapist in their life. Okay, so potentially they can spot on small details, small sentences. The AI system is 100% of the time in a good shape. It's not sick. It's not tired. It doesn't have, like, you know, all those human factor that can lead you to miss something, and it's normal. But then you're less stressed about it, because you have your AI therapist friends next to you that can give you suggestions, remind you stuff, and like help you in those times. And it's a relief. And I think it's not only true for therapists today, but it might be true for any kind of any work.
Yep. But you like you're saying, you know, the AI engine never gets tired. Doesn't, you know, like I've never had a time when I've asked my Amazon Alexa to, you know, do something that says, I'm sorry, I'm off today, or it doesn't do that. So, you know, for some people in this audience, they're probably interested in knowing, like, how does this actually work? I mean, it's as we said in the intro, it kind of seems like magic to some people. Can you explain this in a way that us mortals could understand how an AI engine actually does what it does?
Let's come directly to the big elephant in the room. All the LLMs, all the large language models out there, this new tech behind the ChatGPT, for example. How we do it? So we train a model to understand language. How we do that? We train the models to predict the next word. So whenever you say hello, the system needs to answer hello. Okay, this is how it's trained. How it's trained, we put a lot of textual data with a lot of calculus inside and a lot of way to train. And then in the end, the goal is to optimize this prediction of making sure that they answer like someone would have answered, to predict the next word in every sentence. It's a bit like when you type on your iPhone and then it gives you the next. So you train the model to do that, and each time it doesn't predict the right thing, you kind of pain the model. And at some point, it converges to optimum, and then your model is finished training and it's optimal. Then how to introduce these concept models into a product? And this is, I think, the key today. All those large language models are built by huge companies like OpenAI, Google, Facebook. It costs a lot. It needs a lot. You need a lot of data, a lot of time, a lot of people. So usually what people are doing today, it's built on top of those. You can call those the foundation models. And then the magic from each industry can happen. So in our case, we try to bring clinical knowledge, therapy aspect to those models. And this is like the work that all our data scientists are doing. How do we use these large language models, this technology, in order to build a valuable clinical product for the therapist? For this, we need a lot of domain knowledge. So domain knowledge can be data, so like therapy session, therapy notes, documentation about what is therapy, maybe some guidelines how to do therapy, maybe a course to be therapy, data. And then you need domain experts that will help you to direct the models, but also to validate if your solution is giving good clinical outputs. And this is the key, to have good data, good domain knowledge, and good foundation models, and then to have like a good recipe to put this all together and to output something that is valuable. For example, to create a report from a session. So what is the input? What is the data from the session? It's an audio file. Okay, we have a recording, or let's say if we don't have the recording, we have the transcription. Okay, so we take the recording. There's two ways to do it, but like this old-fashioned way, like the simplest way would be to translate it into use AI to take the audio and make it into text. Okay, and then you have a transcription of the session, and then you need to understand what's happening. So you need to train, fine-tune, use prompts, use a lot of different ways, sometimes everything together, and leverage the big foundational model with the data in order to take this transcription, pass it to your AI solution, and output. In our case, it's suggestions, it can be a report, let's say a summary. And then you train this AI solution to give you a summary that is clinically acceptable based on some rules, on some former data, of some former notes that this user created, etc., etc. Behind the scene, how it's working, the model gets text, and we give instruction or knowledge, and it will try to predict the next word. So you ask, basically, give me a summary. It will just complete like in your iPhone. Now it's more complex. It's like longer. It's more technical, but it's kind of the same.
If a clinician came up to you and said, look, I've seen ChatGPT. Can't I use that to write my notes? Why is that not a good idea?
Now, first thing, you have some PHI issues. Whenever you send to a free account on ChatGPT, it's not HIPAA compliance. That means that it's not great security-wise to share your client's information within the system. Let's say you overpass this, like you get enterprise accounts. Either you have a way to transcribe your session, that means you recorded it and you transcribe it. If you have this, maybe you can pass the full session, ask a summary, etc. And then you have back and forth with ChatGPT. Then you will talk 10, 15 ping pong to get whatever you want. And you might be frustrating, you will improve, but basically all the time it will be like that. When you use something that is embedded within your workflow, that is trained and built to do one task, it's much more efficient and it gives you directly the answer. It doesn't start the discussion with you like to understand, you want it like that, you want it in this format, I use this name, I shouldn't use this name. Maybe they forgot some information within the chat at some point. What is good with embedded AI solution, and not just Eleos, all embedded AI solutions compared to chat AI solution, it has the context. Okay, so potentially we can understand how you like to write notes, how you are conducting session, who is this, what is this session? Is it a group therapy? Is it an individual? Is it a family session? You have a lot of context around which note type you want. Because today you write adapt notes, maybe tomorrow it's another type of notes. So we understand the context. ChatGPT, we need to re-explain all the time, every time. All this concept of like fine-tune, and not just model fine-tune, but like the solution is fine-tuned to your usage. This is the key. And you will save a lot of time. You will have directly the new technology coming to you also. Let's say, okay, ChatGPT, it's not even like top 10, in the output, so it's not the best tool. So what I think, it's like, if you don't use any AI solution, start with ChatGPT. Because it's good, like it will give you a sense, it can help you to rephrase, it can help you to really good content writing, but it's not the best to analyze a session.
The purpose-built nature of Eleos's large language model, to me, is one of the main differentiators, that this is built on clinical transactions, the language of mental health. And I always think about it like, would a radiologist use a specific AI tool to analyze an image, or would they go to ChatGPT and say, hey, is this cancer or not? And trust ChatGPT would get it right. And I think we're in the same boat. I think it's exactly the same situation.
Each time we launch a new solution and new AI models, it's going through validation through experts that will take a lot of output and will rate it and will tell if it's acceptable, flag if there is like issues. And whenever we reach an acceptable level, something really good, without red flags, without issues, then we can put it. ChatGPT, you never know. It wasn't reviewed for therapy sessions, for psychiatry session, for a family session.
Yeah, the ChatGPT, I think of it as a general knowledge base, and for many things, it's not too bad for that. But it's not. I'm not going to trust clinical decisions and trust the advice from a general model. It's kind of like contacting your friends on Facebook for clinical knowledge. Is like, yeah, that may or may not be good. I'm not 100% sure I'd trust that. But I do think it's like, ChatGPT is fun, and those kind of general language models are fun to play with. But I don't want to use them professional. Let's talk about the limitations about AI in general, though. I don't, I mean, it really is very cool what it can do, but what are the limitations? I mean, it's not perfect, and no model is perfect. So, what do you see as kind of the major limitations of AI in general?
Yeah, this is a very good point. With AI, you live in a world of errors. There's always errors. Can be sometimes it's really small hallucination. It can predict something wrong. It can fail. So you live in the world of error, and the work is to reduce this error. It will never be 100% because it's always prediction. It's not for sure. But I guess that the world is not perfect. So like humans are not perfect. We do mistakes all the time. Now, would we accept errors from the AI? That's the question. That's more, I guess, philosophic question. If you ask me, an error, it's an error. So I would, like if it's a human or AI, if tomorrow I have a really good doctor that 80% of the time give me the good diagnostic, and next to it AI that does 90%, I will take my chance with the AI. But then there's 10% errors from the AI, so probably 10% of the time I will get a wrong diagnostic. And then how do I react? When it's a human mistake. How do I react when it's AI? So there's a limitation there. There's a lot of, I guess, limitation in the adoption in this side. And then there's technology limitation. Large language model, for example, are limited in leading us into what we call AGI, like a full general intelligence.
Artificial general intelligence. Yeah.
In the sense that it will be really hard to explain how the world is working. Like, for example, physics. Like I have a pen, if it's falling, it will be really hard to make the AI understand that it's falling. No one taught you that if you have a pen and you drop it, it falls. No one tells you. AI, we need to tell at some way, either a video or a concept, explaining concept. With text, these two big movements. Some think it's possible. Some think there are some limitation, but I guess the world is there are limitations only with text. So we need to add audio, video, stuff like that. That means we need to handle amount of data that it's not the same scale. I will let this to the big corporates. NVIDIA, OpenAI, Meta is pretty good in this subject. Google, they will solve it. It will take time. But there are a lot of cool research about it. But yeah, think about it. Today, ChatGPT is really nice. It seems really smart. But in the end of the day, it's like predict the next words. And a kid that is like 4 or 5 years old handle much more data than AI models and is much smarter in today's life because they understand how law of nature are working and where to focus. So maybe the limitation are like understanding the world, the actual physical world. Like in therapy would be empathy. How do you understand empathy? How do you scan the room? How the AI can scan the room and understand the mood of someone now? And sometimes it's really small because you need to meet the person 10 times to understand exactly the mood of this person, that something changed. There the limitation. And this is where the therapist has a lot of value, added value, experience, okay? Therapists enter the room many times. They understand the context. He has full knowledge on the news what happened yesterday, but also how people react, how this person reacts to any event.
One of the things I think I want to emphasize to the audience that I really agree with what you said early on, and that is that these are not perfect. There are errors in these, but people are imperfect as well. And so, when we judge an AI model, some people would sometimes tend to say, if it's not perfect, then I can't use it at all. It's like, well, no, you would never expect that. Like with your doctor, you don't expect them to be 100% accurate every day on everything. Same thing is true for this, but even the people who are listening to this, some of them understand this in a different context. I wrote a blog about this, that when you build a psychological test, just a traditional old psychological test, no test is perfect. You have reliability and validity coefficients that tell you what the probability is that test will actually measure depression or anxiety. It's really the same concept. We're dealing in probabilities here, not absolutes, correct?
Yeah, and all those tests, you can see the paper behind, and you can see all the statistics. It's all probabilistic. It's statistic.
That's right.
It will work 80% of the time, and we're okay with that. Okay, and we rely on this. Like, I don't know, when you give a medication, you know it will work 40% of the time, and you're okay with that. When you hire someone who's not perfect, and you're going to work with this person, okay, and it's okay, and you can improve, and you can train. Same thing. AI also will improve and train. I'm in the industry since 10 years. It changes every month. Okay. Every month, what I did last month, so I can throw it in the, on the trash and like rethink what I'm doing. It's really fast. I need to catch the train.
I had a statistics prof in college who always said life is a probability statement. And it's like, yep, that's true. Is there anything you want to make sure people understand about AI before we sign off?
I think during many years, I tried to convince people that not to be afraid about AI. I think it's still true. We still have some people that are a bit afraid. When you say it, for example, magic, I heard a lot of the term magic, and I fought a lot against it because it's not really magic. It's like really scientific. It's like a lot of mathematics behind. There's a lot of work behind the scene. It's amazing. It's not magic. Okay, so it's not like it's not dark magic or stuff like that. So I think as AI evangelist or AI people, and not just me that building it, but people that are using it, and like or enthusiasts like you, like that we need to be a voice about. Okay, there are some warnings about AI. So we need to have rules. We need to have like maybe something about this in the state level or the world level, to have rules about AI, to control it, not to get crazy, but mainly it will do good. It's like the internet. We used it in many ways, but we can use it to do really good. And AI is this, and we are in the turning point. What do we use AI for? I think what we are doing in Eleos, it's really great to use AI to do something to impact really good people and lives.
Sam, thank you so much. This has really been helpful. To the audience, thank you for joining us. This has been No Notes, powered by Eleos, and we will see you again for our next podcast. Thank you all.